Hey Scott, how's it going? Hey
Pretty good.
Jamie,
Andy, coming through
how
loud
you
and
doing, buddy?
clear. Yeah, hear you good. Doing
Oh,
well. Doing well. How are you?
good. Well, I'm not gonna say good. I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
hit
yeah,
with,
exactly.
yeah, you know how it is. I got hit just to let you guys know. I did get hit with a nasty little flu bug or something yesterday, and so kind of medicated, and I'm hoping I can get through this. Thanks everybody for joining us today, taking time out of your afternoon, and we look to having some fun on here. But you might have to bear with me if you hear me muting for a little bit. It's probably got a hacking attack or something, coughing attack, but I think I may be able to get through it. So anyway, guys, let's before we get started, let's just go over the uh, the legal stuff here. We are content providers here at Trade Ideas. This is for educational purposes only. We're going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to show you some neat stuff, but nothing is to be construed as investment advice. If that's what you're seeking, look for an IRA or a registered broker. But we have the cool stuff over here. But so anyway, let's get into that. Before we do, let's talk about the support, education, and training. I could add training to this as well that we have here at Trade Ideas for you guys. I apologize for you regulars who come in here every week, but we do have a lot of people that come in kicking the tires, and we want to tell them about everything that's available to them to make them better traders. We have a trading room that's moderated by Barry. He's an incredible trader. He shows his screen so you can look at it and watch how he navigates the market and uses the incredible power of our software to find opportunity in the marketplace. Great hangout, a lot of good traders in there. There's about over 500 traders. And then throughout the week, we have something for every day in the 5 p.m. Eastern time time slot. We have 4 webinars Monday through Thursday. You can look on there and see the names. I'm not going to go over each name today, but 4 webinars in the same time slot, and then we have a podcast that Scott will go over with you at the end of this webinar and talk more about that. That's also in the same time slot. But we don't stop there. No, we don't. We have what's called 101 training, and this is a $99 value here at Trade Ideas. We have people that come and take numerous trainings because your people you're taking training with, myself, Jamie, or Steve, are not only people that's been pretty much using the product since inception. We've been also been professional traders for a very long time. So there's a lot of good stuff you can take away from, and this is free when you sign up, and that's just for the standard package or the premium, whichever one you want. You do get this free training. It's a great time. Now we suggest you get the product. You can get a great 1-hour video. It's kind of like a mock session where you can learn the product. We have a lot of resources to help you learn the product on your own. And then maybe about 2 weeks later, come and take the one-on-one training, so you have a good idea of the product, and then you can do so much more in the one-on-one session. All right, let's go over our agenda for today. We're going to talk about the market recap as we always do, and then the Holly recap. And this is a section that I wasn't able to get to last week because we had so much to talk about, because Holly had an incredible day last Thursday. But this is a little thing that I learned. I didn't learn. I actually applied it to one of my other alerts at one time, my top list. But this is a way you can get really creative with our software to help even go deeper in discovering how you can use it to really benefit yourself, and find those right buying opportunities and those entries. So we're going to be going over that, and then if we have time, and depending on how well I'm holding up, we'll go into some Q&A. But with that said, let's jump out of this real quick and get into the market recap here.
Well, hey, Andy, at
And
least
it's
this chart that we're about to look at doesn't happen every day, huh?
no, not at all, not at all, Jamie. Uh, This is a look at the spiders, and last time we were in here, everything was pretty much setting up. I think we just had this big old washout bounce doji. Looks like everything was looking forward to a nice little potential cup and handle setting up for the week, and then wham, look what we have here. Now that is obviously, I don't like to give reasons why charts develop like they do, but obviously there was a macro event behind that. And I'm not going to get into politics by no means, but nonetheless, that's, people will argue that's what causes that. I don't like to get in those arguments because, price action is the only thing that pays. For whatever reason, we have kind of broken down. I don't want to say broken down. We've kind of wait. Let's put it this way: we broke this cup and handle pattern for sure.
It's the banana in the tailpipe chart.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Now, if I could, let's see if I can get to grab this little trend line here, and it may not let me. Yeah, there we go. You got a little trend line here that you can probably look at here potentially, as kind of a new trend line that we've kind of established there. One could also argue that you started from this point, but nonetheless, it's kind of messy and sloppy right now because we're right back in the middle of this 3-month range. So I'm not going to get too in depth on giving you any incredible insight on today's what could be setting up here technically, because honestly I don't see anything. We're right in the middle of the range. You can see today we rallied and went right back. Remember, guys, what was resistance when we broke through that on this big red candle yesterday now becomes, what was support now becomes resistance. So that's where we ran up to today. If you look at that, we touched that level of, which is now resistance, and backed off. So I would watch that level. If we can get back above that resistance level, I think we may make another attempt, at new highs here. So that's the level I'll be watching, which is basically today's highs. I don't think there's anything else to gather by looking at the diamonds or IWM. Yeah, pretty much the same pattern. IWM still a mess. Q's still by far the leader, but gave back a lot yesterday. Retraced about half of it today, like a lot of the averages did. Jamie, are you seeing anything here that I'm missing?
No, and Andy, I was just thinking as you were describing or showing us these scenarios that even without any macro news driving that, it's still kind of a healthy digestion, just from a purely technical perspective alone.
Absolutely. Yeah, you always, you have to back and feel. That does make for healthy bull markets. Anytime I see something, like very kind of like the Qs getting away from us like they have, going back since the election. That's a huge move, and you're setting yourself up for a potential really ugly tape if you continue that without backing and feeling like you're saying and digesting, for sure.
Yeah, so what, 5 points? Let's see, 7 points would be 5%. And we're not even, we closed, above that today. So,
Yeah.
It's digesting, I think, and we'll see what happens.
Sure. We're due. It's been a long time since we had a, 5-8% or 7 or 8% pullback in the market. So I'd say we're even due for a nice little 10 or 15, but
exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that's enough of that, Jamie. If you want to, Jamie's got some cool stuff to show you on our latest beta version that's not available to the public yet, but he's going to give you a taste of what you're going to be able to see once he takes over the wheel here and starts driving. And then he'll also go through a few of the Holly trades. Not a bad day from Holly today.
The question here, Andy, is can you see my entire screen?
I can. I believe it is your entire screen.
Okay, perfect. I upgraded to a 4K monitor and I'd been having issues, but as long as you can see it, then we're good. I fixed the problem. Yay. Okay, so now let's talk about how Miss Holly did today. And also, too, I've just recently installed the latest developers version, which of course I get all the bells and whistles to test out before we pass that along to the beta version. So got an interesting little feature that I'll show you when we start getting into the Holly trades here. But as far as what did Holly come to the game with today, 8 strategies. And it just so happened today, 4 longs, 4 shorts. Not used to seeing quite an even mix, but hey, in lieu of, or in light of, you know, what the market has been doing, not a big surprise to see a half and half split in there today. Now, as far as the action goes, let's see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, about half of those strategies produced nothing, and then we had 8, 3, 3, and 2, for a grand total of 16 trades, and only 3 of those were shorts, and we can see the short strategy today didn't fare so well, down 17 cents, and that's kind of the way it was with everybody today. 3 trades from on support, ending up with about 40 cents on risk off. So as far as risk off goes today, on that handful of trades, up slightly, 36 cents. And then of course on the risk on side, willing to accept a little bit more risk, $1.09. And the interesting thing to point out about taking into consideration the fact that we were in this day, which, you know, after we have a day like that, everybody's like, you know, what's the next day going to bring? And I'm sure that a lot of people came into the session being very patient, one should say, or not just, you know, going crazy today. I think everybody was probably a little bit reserved, seeing how this was going to play out. Of course, what I'm describing to you is how a human approaches the situation. And we all know Holly is no human. She's just that statistical model. So to see the stat model make a little bit on risk off, make considerably a bit more on risk on, that's exactly what we hope a model like this to do, especially not having a whole lot of days to digest from this large gap down here. And the interesting thing to point out here, ladies and gents, is that we were never really red on either one of these charts, because for those of you who are familiar, you know that a lot of the times we'll kind of green, red until we catch green, or sometimes when Holly has that down day, we catch red. But today, not so much. We had a couple of pullbacks to almost flat before we popped back up, and we can see what the highs were here. So on the risk on, you know, we were approaching at the tops a little under 2 points on the day, which that's opportunity. So let's go ahead and take a peek at some of the things that were produced today and take a look at some of the cracks where we can derive a little bit more alpha than what we see Holly generating on the risk off and the risk on. And the way I always like to approach it is you take risk off and risk on, and hopefully with a little chart reading skills and some proper risk management, we can always get somewhere in between here. You know, it's like a spread. Okay, between 36 cents and $1.09, there's a lot of alpha hiding in the cracks there. And so what we always like to do is go over when should we stay in a trade and go quote unquote risk on versus Holly and following her verbatim, which is risk off. Holly simply following all of her trade instructions, timed holds, stop losses, profit targets. And that's why we have this column right here, exit reason. It's always going to tell us why Holly closed the trade out. So let's take a look at this guy right here. And when I pull this signal, or I pull this symbol here by double clicking, we know that it's going to populate the charts, but we've got a little bit extra going on today. And of course, this one probably isn't the best example. So let's come back to it. I want to take a look where one's a little bit more pronounced here. Dun, 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 whether it's a stop out or, okay, here's a good example. This was from Wake Up Call, the symbol OCUL. And I double clicked, the chart is populated, and for those of you who are familiar, you probably remember that I've always been having to come over here and find the entry price and then draw my line straight across using hour features, from here. Well, now all of that's done for you. So I'll just repeat that again. As soon as I double clicked on OCUL, we've got the arrow like normal, but we've also got the line drawn for us from the entry signal. And of course, this red highlighted area, this was a losing trade, by the way. Holly took a 17-cent loser on it. And of course, had we stayed in it, it would have gotten a lot worse for us on the day. So you've probably heard myself, Steve, and Andy talk about just trading in general. We could be talking about anything, going over these chart patterns. And there's a phrase that comes in all different ways, but it's the more time you spend in the chair as a trader, the easier it is to identify these patterns over time. They'll start jumping off the chart at you. And that's why we've invented this new functionality, is to help you get a visual perspective a lot more easily based on this color coding. So we can see, hey, Holly said to go long right here. And then of course, this trade kind of stopped, didn't work. This was a stop out, but now we can see easily here, it will also draw the line from your stop out. And so this whole area will be shaded while Holly is in the trade. It's going to make it a lot easier for you, me, and everybody else to identify these chart patterns and see these areas of interest. Now, of course, this was a loser, which is why this is more of a red shade. So now when we go back and look at MOH, which was probably, as far as a decimal mover today, was a very good mover. Now, of course, only 1.07%. There were a couple of better percentage movers, and we'll get to those here in just a second. But just wanted to give you a quick peek here again. Notice that Holly got a little fidgety on this one. She exercised her profit save functionality. And we look over here, and she entered the trade and exited in the same 5-minute bar. So that's why, obviously here's the entry signal again with a line drawn for us. Here's the 5-minute bar. So the whole time Holly is in the trade, then it's going to shadow green whether the trade is working, or shadow red whether the trade is in the red or not. So we don't get a very good representation here because she was in and out so quickly. But let's talk about that. Holly decided to book her 11 cents on the profit save. And of course we can't see the stop loss. Now I just squished my chart up here a little bit. Now we can see I probably have to switch to a longer time frame to get that little guy to show himself. So let's just do that. Okay, seems like it's wanting to stay down there no matter what. We'll try 15 real quick here. Yeah, no matter what time frame I have it on, we're still getting the stop loss down here. No big deal. But the bottom line is this. We see Holly getting out. What do? Do we follow Holly? Because, she is telling us what we do, and that's why a lot of people get her, is to follow her advice, right? And what I'll say about that real quick here is that Holly's strong suit is her statistically weighted entries. She's not really the best at exiting a trade. Her prime focus with this profit save is not letting a winner turn into a loser, which would be possible if we were just working with profit target, a stop loss, or a timed hold. So that's the main reason this is in here, and just look at it as a form of a trailing stop. But Holly gets out for 11 cents, so we just made the entry with her. It snaps back up, and that's a beautiful little wick right there. Also gives us confidence. Well, sellers tried to take it down here. Holly signaled that was a good area, but then zipped. They zipped it right back up. The majority of that volume was done in that candle there. So we're in what we think is a good trade. It's coming nowhere close to our stop loss. And Holly's getting out for 11 cents. So at that point in time, I would think to myself, I see Holly getting out, but we just got into the trade. It's moving our way. I'm going to try to stay in this trade and exercise proper risk management. And of course, we can see that stock just slowly marched up for the remainder of the day. Now I'm going to flip this back around to the 5 minutes. And also too, this was a great opportunity once we're in this trade and it's working for us. We can start realizing other aspects about this chart. So I just took the liberty of drawing a line across from the initial high that it put in. And of course, we could go ahead and do that for the low, just to illustrate that once the stock bounces off of here, we're range bound. And of course, slowly but surely, we gravitate to this line and start punching through again. That's also another great entry opportunity. We're already in it from the statistical probability down here. The trade's working. Now it's breaking its range for the day. Might be a good time to add to some shares here. In which case, we would have been rewarded over time. Now, of course, for those of you who might be newer, or maybe you just got the AI, maybe you're looking for a routine that can just get you acclimated to thinking like this. And so it's always a good idea, if you're really unsure about risk on and you're still learning the methodology, and it takes a little bit of time, do half. Follow Holly on the risk off, and then if you think the chart has more, you think there's more alpha in that play, then of course you can take that second half, put a stop loss back to break even or whatever you're willing to give back, and then that takes it's just a simple, okay, I'll do half with Holly, half on my own. When I feel that I've become proficient enough, then maybe I'll just start going all on my own for the exits. But there seems to be a lot of mystery around it. A lot of people think they have to pick risk off or risk on in the very beginning, but that's not necessarily the case. All right, hopefully this one. Sure, go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say another thing to consider, going back to that MOH, is where you bought the stock. That's a fading strategy. So when you are buying, going against the momentum, the downward momentum like that, I've said it in here numerous times, if you have the guts to go in and buy something against the momentum, you might want to, because now you're talking about a trend reversal, which is basically the start of a possible new trend, which it was on a 5-minute or 15-minute chart. So so it's different for me when I'm buying momentum. In other words, I'm chasing stuff that's breaking out versus when I'm doing a, on support, a fading strategy, okay? Because my theory is, once again, if you have the guts to go step in, you need to ride it out for some nice profits and let it work for you. But I really like our fading strategies, and I noticed the short ones, I think we're going to see them really start. If we do, I shouldn't say if, when we get into a bearish tape, I think we're going to see a lot of better short strategies. I love the short strategies that we have, the fading ones, and I think they're going to be really effective during a bearish market.
Oh yeah, everything will just be flipped around. But I'm glad you brought that up, Andy, because obviously, let's take a look at the strategy name, on support, right? So that tells us right there, comes into the day with 60.4% statistical probability. And let's say we took a look at this and we're like, ooh, well, stocks at lows. I've tried to catch knives before, right? And we always hear about that. However, all we have to do is look over here to really help this get driven home here, right? Here we are looking at, the candle that we were in today, and we got this nice little tight support area. So when you see it like this on support, it really does help kind of drive it home. Now this is a very pretty chart. They don't all look like this, but I mean, I definitely say Mohawk or Molina is on support here. And when we see a nice little wicky candle, and then we see the stock start to gyrate back up 5, 10, 15 minutes after the entry, and we've come nowhere close to the stop loss, well, then hey, that's what we live for,
Yep.
Okay. Now this little guy right here, notice we're going to look at MLP next. Of course, look at this one. She stayed in it for the duration. So MLP, wake-up call. Wake-up call is designed around a 45-minute hold time. We can get that from right here. And so time stop, and that's why this chart looks a little bit different. We've got a lot more green here because it's showing us this highlight, or this dark green area right here is Holly's exit. Let's see, MLP 9:15 to 10:01. So here was the entry right here, and then shortly right after, that's the 10 o'clock bar. So the 10:01 occurred right in here. So this is where Holly gets out on risk off, and then the lightly shaded green is risk on. And now this is another perfect example. Holly gets out for the time stop right here. Of course, the stop loss is right here. And see, as long as we don't encroach on this little area right here, then everything is pretty much hunky-dory, because that's why we have stop losses in our trading routines. You know, there are circumstances where we as human beings, we're in something. We've got a 50-cent stop loss. It just keeps going down. We're down 20 cents. We're down 30 cents. And then there will be, you know, maybe the market's going down. So you think to yourself, why give away that other 15 cents? I got a pretty good idea. It's going to go down anyway. I'm going to go ahead and just reduce my risk. And Holly does the same things sometimes. But really, for the statistical model, you know, all of these stop losses are built into the hard calculation. So from my opinion is it's always a good rule of thumb to stick to your stop losses. Let them do what they're designed to do. So Holly scalped out of this one kind of early on the MLP for 12 cents on the time stop. But once again, you know, maybe you know.
And I think, Jamie, not to step on you here, but I think actually if I counted the 5-minute bars, I think that time stop would have actually been after that little dip down there, because it was a 45-minute. So it looks like to me that would have been after that dip down. But maybe I'm wrong.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
Like, okay, so if you see where my pointer is right here on MLP, right? Entry time on 15, exit time 10:01. And this guy right here is the 10 o'clock bar, which encompasses 10:01 through 10:05, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So I thought that too. I'm like, is that right or is that wrong? But then, you know, here's the 10. You know, it would have been right at the top there. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe I apologize. Yeah. It looked like to me it would have been after that. Yeah.
Yeah. So 10:01. Yeah, it was right, virtually right when this one closed and this one opened. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
But once again, hey, I've seen this before. It's like, you know, which one of these things is like the other? And it's this guy right here, because we're in it from Holly. Of course, this is a thinly traded stock, ladies and gentlemen. Not saying that anybody could jump in here and trade this one heavily, but we're primarily focused just on the pattern alone. And once again, when we identify these tops, we've already been in it. Maybe we close the whole position. That's always a possibility. Maybe we took our 12 cents. Maybe we're in a couple hundred. We're like, hey, 24 bucks, I'll take it. This is a thinly traded stock. But you know what I do? As soon as I got out of that thing, I would set a price alert right here. Say, you know what? That does look like a nice little consolidation area right here, so I might want to be alerted a second time when it's going to penetrate there. And of course, penetration and a move higher. And they don't always do that. If they don't ever make it back up there, they don't trigger, you never get your price alert. But if they do, it could be very interesting. And you know, one other comment to make about statistical probability that's generated from these strategies, it's good for the whole day, right? It comes out, and a lot of the times we'll see, you know, the stock vacillate right at the entry price and then go. Other times they just blast off like a rocket, which is always nice, but they come in all shapes and sizes. All right, so another time stop, so we get more colorization here. Once again, wake-up call, which has always been one of the more, well, it's been one of the most well-performing strategies that Holly has been working with. Of course, today, a little bit different. Even though it didn't perform so well, didn't really give a whole lot of money away. We could pretty much say it just kind of was flat for the day, up 3 cents on risk off. But usually see a lot more performance out of the wake-up call and some of the early morning strategies. So let's take a look at this last one, the Corey from wake-up call. Holly getting out once again on a time stop, 45 minutes again. And yeah, at first glance, that doesn't look like 45 minutes, but once again, let's just do this, verify. Yep, that is the 1050 bar. Exit time was 1051. So once again, a nice little entry from Holly right here. It's nice not to have to draw these lines all the time now. Nice blue line right at the entry. And this is one that just boom, boom, boom. As soon as you participated or started watching it, we get a nice little pop-up. And then, of course, once we're in the trade, look what we see happening. Nice little, taking a little nap here. Buyers and sellers become equal. This one looks thin, but you can see 4,000, 5,000 shares traded there, almost 1,000 there. So, you know, for most traders in our realm, doing 2, 3, 4, 500 shares even, not the most liquid stock, but still probably executable, depending on what algos are hopping around in there, we should say. But here we have the same thing again. We're in it from Holly with statistical probability, and also at the same time, it was breaking that range. Yeah, breaking this range, we get it right here. So what do we have? We have statistical probability coupled with a familiar chart pattern, which is always good. You know, the more positive attributes you can stack on top of here, the better. Because a trade can work on one alone. It can be the pattern, the statistical probability. When we start combining the two, well, that's something different. Of course, we participate with Holly here. We get a consolidation. We do have the opportunity, once again, at this second range break here, to add to the position and take even more than, you know, what we're seeing here with Holly simulating, you know, a share of each on the 25 cents. So nothing to jump up and down about today with Holly, but on a day like today, this is exactly what I would expect from her. So I have to say that, hey, can't be more pleased. Just didn't want to see this statistical model going busy. We're going, you know, very aggressive on a day where there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. Of course, tomorrow is a new day. Holly's going to have another day of information once she gets the database updated from today's data to figure out more alpha for me, you, everybody out there today. Now on the percentage winners, we did have, yeah, the Corey was probably the biggest percentage winner today on the risk-off side, clicking out about 3.68%. MLP was right behind that at 2.74%. All right, so before we move on, any specific questions out there about Holly or anything that I've spoken about today? If anybody needs clarification on anything. How do you delete? Okay, so if you, I'm just going to answer Joan's question real quick here. So I'm assuming, Joan, that you're talking about these lines that we can draw. How do we get rid of them? Well, what we do is we put our cursor on there till we lock on, and then we hit the delete key, and you can see those lines will disappear, but you have to be right on there.
And you have to hold down your left click button.
You know, I was trying to, okay, here we go. I just did it. Yeah, we left click and hit delete, and then presto, it disappears. All right, Andy, anything to add about Holly before I...
No, yeah, you covered it. You covered it really well, Jamie. Yeah, and just to remind everybody, that is the developer's version right now. That's not available on our website. That will be hopefully to you here in another couple of weeks or so. So, but he's just wanted to show you stuff that's in the pike and coming down, and we will be having them adding the moving averages too. That I'm sure is up next.
Right. Before we cruise on, I'm just going to answer John's question real quick. He was saying a lot of the times Holly has $1 stop loss, and I forget which strategy that is, but it's a specific strategy that did not show up today. Mm-hmm. But I know what you're talking about. But when we if we draw our attention to the stop loss column over here from the strategy panel, we can see what all the stop losses were for today. Smart stops were most of these guys. The bond shorty had a 3%, and wake up call has a flat 20-cent stop loss across the board. But John, I know what you're talking about. I forget which strategy it is that has the dollar stop loss, but it wasn't in here today. All right, Andy. So did you want to take it back, or did you want
Yeah,
to
just
talk about?
hand it back to me, and I will go over this this last segment here. And so I know one guy had mentioned he'd like to see some things, uh, more. He wants to find some stuff that see. I'll just read the question. See. Using the platform, do you ever explain if you have any screeners for early morning trades? And yes, Alex, we have a lot of uh, scans and alerts for early morning trades, and you're looking at some of them on my screen right now as we're doing this webinar. Extreme volume, high low. This is my pro version because I like to look for stuff that's a little more liquid. So we catch a lot of the action, screeners. We will share all these. As a matter of fact, we have a PDF of all of our favorite alerts and scans, top lists that we share with everybody who comes as a subscriber. And yes, there's some, identifying alpha and catching it. Yes, very. I don't want to say easy to do with our software because you have to. It is a very powerful software, and you have to learn how to use it. But anyway, just to answer your question, yes, we have plenty of stuff for catching the early morning action, and we actually have a pre-market channel that will get you ready for where the early action may be going. So I can't jump over there right now because I have to move on to this next segment. And I always like when I can pull up real life kind of situations, that I'm talking to people, especially who are got the software, taking their time, learning to do what they need to do to profit in the marketplace. And I had a session with a guy the other day. It's probably his 5th paid session so far. And I kept telling him, you got to find your niche. There's going to be a lot. You're going to get a lot of tools to work on this with this software. It's very powerful, and you're going to be tempted to check out everybody's new scans and new alerts. But you got to find out what works for you. And boy, our 5th session, I got on there. He was excited. He goes, Andy, I just want to tell you, I think I found my niche. And I said, oh, that's great. What are you doing? He goes, well, I really like Alpha Predator, but what I've learned to do is to, buy them on pullback. So in other words, these are Alpha Predator. It's a top list. Well, it's in top list form right now. On this one, we do have an Alpha Predator alert, but my focus, he uses a top list, so I'm going to focus on the top list. For you guys that are new and don't know what a top list is, basically it's just all filters. It's nothing but filters. There's no alerts in here. In other words, it doesn't have to be hitting a new high. It doesn't have to be, pulling back at a certain range. It's whatever you put in your filters. So as long as these filters are satisfied, they're going to appear, the symbols are going to appear in this top list. And a top list refreshes every 30 seconds. So what I did this morning, because I told him, because he goes, Andy, do you have anything that will help me? Because right now I'm just kind of looking and watching and pulling them up and seeing where they're pulling back. Do you have anything that will help me to notify me when they're pulling back? I said, I'm glad you asked, because with our latest version, what we could do, let's create an alert. So I showed him how to go up here and create an alert. Start from scratch. And all I wanted to do is put 2 alerts in here. Now I don't have to search for them because they're already in here. I'm going to put 25% pullback from the close. You could choose whichever one you want. I would actually like to choose both, because that way I'll know if they're pulling back. This is from the open and this is from the close. So in other words, if the stock gaps way up, and runs $1 and then pulls back 25 cents, you're going to get it with this alert. So basically, all you have to do is create this alert, and then I actually already have one created, so I'm just going to go and grab that one because I added some columns, I think, in there. So what I'm going to do is just go File and pull mine up, and I think I just called it Alpha Predator Pullback. Yeah. All right. So this is the alert that I've created for him. So in other words, So now we have this 25% pullback from high alert. So now what you have to do is I want to create it. I want to create a symbol list. And what you can do is just go into Tools, go to Symbol List, and I've already created it. It's right here. And to show you how easy it is, all you got to do is create new list, name it, and it's in there, just like this one is. I'm not going to do that because I've already done it. So I've created this one, and it's in there, and it's ready to go. It's called Alpha Predator Pullback. So now what I can do, I told him, I said, now you just wait for these symbols to come through. If you see a chart you like, say you see KMX in the morning, I took this Alpha Predator and I put it on the time frame, and I went back to a historical date and put it on 8:45 Central Time this morning, so it's 15 minutes after the market opened, so I could make this point to you guys. So when this came through this top list, it was trading at 62.16. So if I saw this, I like the chart, I love what I'm seeing here in the daily, it's breaking out of a range here. It's like, wow, but I don't want to chase it. I don't have to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to go over here to Send To, and I'm going to go to Symbol List, and I'm going to go to Alpha Predator Pullback. Now it's automatically put in this alert window, because what you have to do over here when you configure this alert window is you have to make sure your symbol list is pointed at Alpha Predator Pullback. So now it's not going to be looking through the whole universe of stocks on the 4 major exchanges. It's only going to be following the stocks in your symbol list. So there you go. You hit OK, OK, and I just put one symbol in there. Let's go back and just kind of see what you would have got just from this one symbol today. See how many times you would have got a pullback on it. And looks like several times just today. So, and we should get our arrow. So we had 8:45. So let's see when our first one was. And there it is. So right there, so you caught this early in the morning. It came through Alpha Predator in the first 10 minutes, and you shoot it over here to your Alpha Predator pullback. Well, the next thing you know, it's going to notify you, hey, look here, I just pulled back, 25% from highs for you, and that's from the close. Right here, it did the same thing at 9:16. Right there from the open. So it's a nice way if you're looking at these things and you don't want to, now this one just kind of, you're not getting extreme pullbacks because it's kind of congested right here for a while. So you're not getting a whole lot. But I could go through here and show you, but the idea is not to show you how effective the alert is, because I can promise you this, Alpha Predator has been it's a very popular top list for us. The way we have the filters configured, it will show you some stocks and pretty much setting on a lot of time frames that's doing volume and potentially could be very explosive. So an easy way to do that is, guys, as they're coming through, let's take a look at this BDSI. Let's see if we can find another one here for us. Yeah, that was kind of a cheap stock. Whoa, that one was kind of all over the place. Yeah, that one would have provided some opportunity this morning on the pullback alert. But I don't want to go through here. The thing I wanted to show you what to do is how you can be creative when you're using our software. And you don't have to do this for just Alpha Predator. You could do it for anything. You could do it on, you could throw this in there. Say you're looking at this one. You could call it, my stocks to watch. And say you see this one taken off this morning and you say, oh, that's one. I don't want to chase it, but I'm going to throw it in there. So you could call this whatever you want to and put any stocks you want to that's coming through here, like this ATHN this morning.
Yeah,
and
it's like
just
building
an easy way.
Sorry, Andy, we got a little bit of a delay here. I was just going to say it's basically like using that top list to form a watch list, but then you're just adding some interesting catalysts to your watch list. Hey, it's a watch list, but it's a watch list plus because you can attach alerts to it.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. And not only that, you can add some interesting columns in here too, because what I wanted to do is I added a volume in the 5-minute, because if it is pulling back 25%, I might want to know, is it pulling back on heavy volume, or is it pulling back on? I know Jamie's a big fan of this. You know, he likes to see where the volume is in the 5-minute. You can even add a 1-minute column in here. That would be great. So, because what you'd like to see when you're buying stocks on pullback, you'd like to see them going up on stronger volume, pulling back on lighter volume. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea. It's very powerful software and ways you can use it, you know, if you don't want to chase highs. And I guarantee you so many traders could learn to instead of, you know, seeing alert and saying, oh man, it's getting away from me, I got to go buy it, and then you chased highs, your trend's fixed on it, you're missing opportunity. This is a way you just sit back and you use the software. You see something come through, let's put it on the next time frame and see if we have anything new in there. Let's go to 850. So it switches over. Oh, here's some new one now. That looks good. I'm going to switch, you know, move that over there. So instead of chasing it, and be patient and get your price. And that's the whole idea behind this. You send it to Alpha Predator, boom, it's there. And now you don't have to do anything else but keep an eye on this pullback alert. And then when they start, you know, when they start coming through, see if they can get that one, and then just wait for them to come through and get your price, and not be chasing. I can't tell you how effective it can be. This guy right here, he's like, Andy, yeah, I really found my niche. I love playing this Alpha Predator, but I'm buying them on pullbacks. And I said, you're a very smart man. I mean, you know, it's too many people want to chase, you know, chase the momentum, but you'll find out that even stocks that are doing great volume, they will breathe and they will pull back so you can get your price. You know, I went on to tell them another story. Is I remember back in the, of course, I'll clean it up. I don't want to offend anybody. It's not that bad of a word, but I used to have what I call oh shoot bids, and not even alerts. I would just go ahead, I'd see a stock, and I said, oh, that's great. I'm going to go ahead and bid it, you know, like, for example, this ATHN. I'm going to throw a bid out at 125 and just forget about it. So say I would put 500 shares on the bid there, forget about it, and then all of a sudden I'm not watching, you know, just doing something else, and all of a sudden, bang, you know, the symbol appears on my blotter, and I own it. And my first expression is, oh, shoot, except it wasn't shoot. And but I cannot, I'm serious, I bet you if I had to go back, I wish I journaled more, but I guarantee you 90% of those were profitable trades. It's because you're being creative, and you're not chasing, you're waiting for things to, you know, pull back to you. But this is a way where you don't have to actually go in and bid it. You can just use our technology to go in and let it do the bidding for you. So in other words, oh wow, we got hit on that, let's pull it up, and then you can pull it up and determine, you know, if you want to take the entry or not. But it's a great way to use to tie in, you know, alerts and top lists together, and just use the technologies to be creative and get your price. And Jamie, I think I'm finally starting to lose it over my voice over here, but
no worries. We're probably pretty good stopping point. I do want to answer one question that I saw Charles asking, and it went something like this. You know, is it hard to know which opportunity to take, right? Are there any clues? Well, that's kind of what we're doing here with our product, because, well, we all know trading the markets is anything but easy. But, you know, the way it typically works, Charles, is, you know, we all have a certain pattern that we like to play. So we typically configure our scanners in trade ideas to identify those patterns, or we trade with Holly, the AI model. But basically that's what we do. We get trade ideas to show us these specific events that we're looking for, and everybody's the same as far as using technology in that capacity. Now, everybody might be looking for a little bit different of an animal. So that's the whole takeaway here, is we lead you to the things that you want to find so that you can execute on those specific chart patterns. So when knowing when to trade is a learning process. So if you're pretty new, you kind of stumbled onto the right place. You might want to start spending some time in our chat room and just kind of soaking up all the information. so that all of this looks a little bit clearer to you over time. Okay,
Yeah,
Andy,
absolutely.
asking, I dropped Alpha Predator stalking, and the turbo brakes up, large cap, there was a request for. Now this is just you adding the 25% pullback to the Alpha Predator filter set, right? There were some people
Yeah,
asking.
you're going to have to.
You want to drop it
I'm
in
sorry,
there?
that delay is getting us again.
You want to drop the Alpha Predator one in there, or do you think is it ship worthy?
Well, it's just, it's just an alert. I mean, I can, but once again, you are going to have to go in and create your symbol list. It's very easy to do. You just go, tools, symbol list. So I will, I will drop this in. It's a very simple, just a pullback from highs. And I wanted to answer Peter, who was asking, just curious on the Alpha Predator pullback. That's 25% of what? The day's range. Very good. I have two in there, Peter. One is let me go ahead and copy this first and get it in the chat real quick.
Yeah, 25%.
Okay, I am dropping that.
Yeah.
Right. So what it is, I have an open and I have a close. Like this KMX right here, if you see the C, that's 25% from close. So in other words, if a stock closed at $10 and then it ran up the next day to $11 and then pulled back to $11.75 or $10.75, you would get that alert. Okay. Now if you're using the open, if the stock gaps up, say $1, okay, it's just going to use the open. So if it closed at 9, gapped up to 10, and then traded up to 11, a 25% pullback would be to 10.75 because it's not going to count that dollar that you had from the gap. Does that make sense? No.
I think you explained it quite well.
Okay. All righty. Well, I think we used up almost all the time. What strategy works best for options? Yeah, Charles. Yeah, that's a whole nother probably a whole nother webinar. But basically, you can. The way I see it, any scan or top list or alert that you created to find stocks, you could play options with it as well.
Yeah.
So it's just another way to take to go long or short a stock without putting as much equity into the trade. But anyway, let me pull back. I want to thank you guys for bearing with me today. Let me pull back up the slide here and bring Scott in to kind of walk us through the. Stay with us, guys, because I think Scott will offer you a little discount here on our product here at the end.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Before we move on to that, just want to remind everyone that's an Interactive Brokerage user to download. Oh, I need to update that, but the newest beta that's up there on the beta page is now, I think it's 4.0.136 or 3.3 now, whichever it is. The new one's up there. It also includes Brokerage Plus for Interactive Brokerage, and that lets you manage your portfolio directly from within Trade Ideas if you're an IB customer. You can also trade directly from Trade Ideas and use Trade Ideas Scan to trigger the alert, and you can do it as gray box or black box. It's up to you. So we got some YouTube videos on that. Search our YouTube channel for it, or just email info@ if you have any difficulty hooking up to Brokerage Plus. We do have a demo video of that. Okay, and we also have a podcast, and we release that on Fridays. So if you would locate Trade Ideas Podcast in your favorite podcast app. You can just search for it, Trade Ideas Podcast, and subscribe. You'll get the fresh podcast when it comes out tomorrow. And you can also download the previous ones in the archives. We usually have Dan Merkin, our CEO, with Jamie Hodge, and occasionally we have some guests. So check those out. Subscribe for the podcast. We have a discount code that'll save you 15% off your first month or year. So this month you can use MAYHOLLY for this webinar's code, MAYHOLLY, all caps. And that works for both standard or premium. Remember, both standard and premium include the full hour of one-on-one training with Andy or Jamie or Steve. So once you become a subscriber, we recommend watching the Getting Started videos, trying the software a little bit yourself, and attending the trading room with Barry Anderson. And then after you got a list of questions and you know what you want to get out of your training, that's when you should schedule your training. And do it within like the first month, but spend a few days first watching the videos and going to the trading room for the best to get the best out. The most out of the training. And just go to support section of Trade Ideas, click on training. You've got a nice little calendar thing that you can schedule your training with Andy or Steve or Jamie. Thanks everyone for attending. If you have any questions, the best email for support is info@trade-ideas.com. It goes directly to our support software and gets routed to the appropriate team member that knows how to help you. You can also call if you have any billing issues. That's not for you software support though. Facebook.com/TradeIdeasPro is where we're located on Facebook. Like the page so that you can share what we post there with your friends. @QuantBot is how to find Jamie on Twitter, and Steve Gomez is @TodayTrader. Of course, Dan Merkin is Trade Ideas 1. We also have Trade Ideas. So thanks everyone for joining us. We'll have the recording up later tonight, and you get an email reminder tomorrow. And remember, we have webinars next week. It's the normal webinar schedule, so it'll start on Monday with office hours, followed by the Trade of the Week on Tuesday, and Q&A session on Wednesday, and the Trading Studio on Thursday. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Andy, I hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, feel better, Andy. Talk to you soon.